We all float down here, and when you are with me, you'll float too. Happy Halloween, everyone. It's Sarah, excited to bring you our review of HBO Max's new series, Welcome to Derry. Today we'll be covering episode 1, but before we begin, please give us a like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and hit that hype button if you're on mobile. We greatly appreciate it. Okay, let's find out what's happening to all these missing kids. In 2017, we got a big-budget R-rated adaptation of Stephen King's novel It, which saw a group of kids in the 80s form a powerful bond to stop an interdimensional shape-shifting creature from eating all the local children. Chapter 1 was amazing, and while Chapter 2 wasn't bad by any means, the adult half of the story just seemed a little disjointed. The film did change the time setting a bit. Whereas in the novel, the story of the kids takes place in the late 50s and then in the 80s when they're adults. But honestly, it works fine. This series, on the other hand, takes us back to the late 60s and explores one of the major past incidents involving Pennywise, the evil clown monster. In the novel, as well as the films, they touch briefly on the history of Derry and how the clown has been around since its foundation, and each time it woke up to feed, their history was marked by some great tragic disaster. This show seems to focus on what is known as the Black Spot Fire, which again in the novel was a kind of nightclub built for people of colour, and unfortunately a group calling themselves the Main Legion of White Decency burn it down and a bunch of the patrons trapped inside. Dickheads. Of course, while the racism was always there, Pennywise's evil influence brought it all to a boiling point, which then in turn allowed him to feast and simultaneously cover it all up. I'll be honest, I was a bit skeptical after seeing the trailers, as the series also has a group of children forming a kind of club and then investigating and fighting Pennywise. Considering Pennywise has never had anyone stand up to him until the Loser Club and never really experienced fear himself, this kind of breaks the law. But after watching the episode, well, let's just say, I don't think these kids stand a chance. Uh-oh. Okay, spoilers are now inbound. I'll give you a moment to skip to the timestamp on the screen if you wish to avoid any. Still here? Let's get started. The episode begins in a movie theatre, and in this semi-packed showing we meet the Clements boy. Apparently he keeps sneaking into the theatre and the ticket guy seems to be pretty pissed about it. The ticket man then tries to question this young tomboy outside by the concession counter, Ronnie, and she lies to him and tells him the boy ran outside. The Clement boy looks to be around 8 years old but still sucks a pacifier for some reason, given how the novels describe Derry, probably some really shitty parents at home. Well, having given the ticket guy the slip, he heads outside and down the road. It's nighttime outside and it's snowing. He tries to hitch a ride but nobody's stopping. This is except for an old Chrysler town car. Inside seems to be a perfectly normal family. A dad, a mom, a young boy and a pre-teen daughter, with a bunch of luggage in the trunk space behind the back seat, as it seems that they're heading to Portland for a family trip. The kid gets in and tells them he'll be thankful to go anywhere but Derry. Poor kid. Something seems off though. As the radio starts talking about a kind of nuclear disaster and the young boy starts spelling every word someone says. Then the daughter reaches into her backpack and pulls out a Tupperware container with raw, bloody liver inside. Gross. She runs her fingers through it and then squeezes the juice onto her fingertips before holding them to her face and taking a big whiff. What the fuck? The boy suddenly has a problem spelling the word trouble, while the daughter now takes her fingers and sticks them into Clement's face to make him smell them. Ooh. Then it gets real. It's pretty weird already, but it's apparently going to get weirder. First, the girl snaps on her brother and smiles all weird at the other kid. Then the mum says, "That's my little heartlet. Not enough glue to keep those legs together. And the dad responds with, sounds just like my wife. Oh, okay, that's fucked up. That did get weirder. They start laughing uncontrollably, and suddenly the kid sees a billboard outside telling him they're going back to Derry. He asks what's happened to going to Portland, and the dad's grin grows so large it's like the Grinch. And the mom starts spelling vasectomy. The kid is freaked out and asks to be let out. The mom, growing more and more unstable, starts spelling out the words kidnapping, maggot, strangulation, etc. And finally, when the boy yells, "Let me out," the whole car just keeps spelling the word out. O-U-T. Well, clearly this is Pennywise at work. The kid tries to grab a hold of the steering wheel, but suddenly the mom goes into labour as the kids continue to scream, spelling the word out. Oh, fucking hell. Suddenly their eyes begin to turn sideways and the mum's vagina rips open as she gives birth to something. As the kid leans over their seat to get a look of what it is, it looks like a demonic cherub. A bald, fat little baby with extra heads growing out of its chest and bat-like wings, and giant sharp teeth and solid black eyes. Oh, we know who this is. The mom grabs the umbilical cord and starts swinging it around in the car until the creature lands in the back of the car. Then suddenly everyone stops moving and the creature pops up its head and attacks the boy. His head exploding against the window. Roll opening credits. What a fucking start. Cuts to 4 months later. Outside of a military airfield, a kid roughly 12 to 14 is marking down what kinds of planes he sees in his journal before checking his watch and running off. At the airbase, 2 pilots have just arrived and are greeted by Colonel Fuller, General Shaw's XO. The 2 pilots are Major Hanlon and Captain Russo. If the name Hanlon sounds familiar, that's Mike's last name from the Loser Club, so it might be his dad or his grandfather. We'll find out soon enough. As this takes place in 1964, Vietnam hasn't quite started yet, so these guys must have fought in the Korean War. It's also the height of the Cold War, so the Soviets are the big bad guys currently. Now the radio broadcast makes a little more sense, as Pennywise would want to inspire fear in the people to make them more tasty. And everyone at the time feared nuclear war. As the pilots are being driven to their briefing, they pass a hangar that's got triple security around it, and everything is blacked out, all windows and such. The colonel says it's special projects that only high-ups need to know, so they shouldn't concern themselves with it. We cut over to the school and a young girl, Lily, heads to her locker, but when she opens it up, a bunch of pickle jars come tumbling out, smashing onto the floor and covering her in brine. Aww. Her friend Marge comes over to instantly cheer her up, telling her to forget about those bullies, and as a bonus, she now smells delicious. I do love a good pickle. Very tasty. The classrooms are filled with flyers for Duck and Cover, another clue to the time period and the Red Scare. We switch over to 2 other kids, Phil and Teddy, who are talking about aliens visiting Derry and not knowing how right they actually are. Phil was a kid who was watching the airplanes land and discloses to Teddy that he counted over 48 big-ass military cargo planes and that they were building something in that hangar. Ooh. Now, given that King's work is very interconnected in a vast multiverse, I think I should break down a few quick elements before giving my theory of what's in that hangar. If you've seen The Mist, then you should know of the name the Arrowhead Project. In King's novels, there is something called a thinning, which in simple terms is a tear in the fabric of space and time. Imagine if space and time was a piece of paper and you poked a hole in it. It's so thin the slightest breeze could go through it and rip it open. Well, that's what a thinny is, and it's how many of the monsters in King's novels travel to our plane of existence. Pennywise comes from a dimension known as the Macroverse, which is tied to Midworld, the kind of hub to all realities, and in Midworld is also where the creatures from the myths reside. So with all that information, basically I think they are building some kind of gateway in that hangar. Maybe they used some kind of spectrometer or whatever and picked up a frequency of some kind that they didn't match anything on Earth to. And that would of course be the energy that Pennywise gives off. So the military shows up and begins experimenting, of course, either to try and harness the energy or maybe something else. Interesting. We cut back over to the airfield and the pilots meet their new flight crew. Given that it's the late 60s and Hanlon is a black pilot, there is of course a racist engineer on the crew who immediately disrespects by not saluting and giving him attitude. That is until Shaw shows up and reminds the engineer that not saluting a superior officer is a Code 89 violation, which will lead to court-martial, so he better unfuck himself real quick. So far there aren't many people of colour on this airbase, except for the guy driving Shaw around, and he gives Hanlon an intense stare like he wants to whoop his ass, but as far as I can tell these two have never met. We get to know the boys a little better while they're hanging out after school. Teddy's last name is actually Uris, which would mean he's related to Stan. Now I don't remember Stan having an older brother or any cousins, and if this is his dad that would mean he was 22 when he had Stan, as he was 35 years old at the time when Pennywise began terrorising the Losers Club. I guess that makes me rethink the Major Hanlon is actually Mike's grandfather, not his dad. They also touch on the kid from the beginning, Matty Clement, having gone missing 4 months ago. Over at Lily's house, she's checking herself out in the mirror and getting ready for a bath and clearly feeling a bit down about herself. It seems she also knew Matty and misses him. He's always made her feel pretty and special. I'm starting to see the puzzle pieces of how all these different kids grow up and know each other. We get a little flashback to a moment when her and Matty, who takes her to a secret clubhouse spot, and find out why her nickname is Loony Lily and the pickle prank. One day when her and her mother went to go pick her dad up from the pickling plant, Lily was trying to get a toy from some machine when it jammed up and her dad climbed up to unjam it and he got stuck into the gears and somehow passed away. Oh, that's so sad. Poor girl. Pretty sure it wasn't an accident though. Damn evil presence. Matty tries to kiss her, but she's in shock at that moment and he gets embarrassed and leaves. And that was apparently the last time she ever saw him. Poor girl. Her mother interrupts her bath time and well, it's very passive aggressive towards her. And she's basically blaming her for the dad's death and then proceeds to tell her to grow up and get over it. Wow! Fucking vile mother, is not her fault. Oh girl. When the mom leaves, suddenly voices of different kids come up of the drain and one of those voices is Matt. She leans in close to the drain and begs him to come home. And then a bloody finger shoots up out of it and the voices scream, "He won't let me." Fuck. The next day she tells Marge about it and while skeptical at first, she starts going full Nancy Drew on it. They dash into the girls' bathroom and Marge tells Lily to keep it between them or her reputation at school will get worse. Lily gets angry and says Marge only cares because of her own social standing. They are then interrupted by a fart. At first they think it's the girl at the sink who looks at them sheepishly and darts out, but I think we're gonna find out someone else was listening in one of the stalls. Dun dun dun. After school, Lily goes to the secret spot and runs into Phil and Teddy, and she tells them about what she heard in the drain. Phil is a dick about it, but he's a dick about everything. But Teddy, he believes her almost right away. Phil tries to break down the logistics of it. How first Matty would have to know where every pipe leads in Derry, and when Lily is taking a bath, and also have super stretch powers like Mr. Fantastic to stick a finger up out of the drain. Teddy just looks at him and reminds him that every morning for the past few months he's been rattling off theories and whatnot about aliens living among them, and maybe he should try to look at this from outside of the box. Go Teddy. Over at the airbase, Major Hanlon is meeting with Shaw in private, and it seems that the good Major has quite the accommodations under his belt, and because he's such a damn good pilot, he's here to test the new B-52s, and if the test goes well, he might get to bomb Moscow. Ooh. And cutting over to Yuri's residence. After a very uncomfortable dinner, Teddy is suddenly jump scared by a lampshade made out of human skin, all Ed Gein style, as he learned that in some of the concentration camps that was the fate of some unfortunate prisoners. Aww. He kicks it off the nightstand and jumps off the bed, and it begins rolling after him, mumbling and also screaming, before growing bright orange. Teddy luckily covers his eyes, forcing him to believe it isn't real and quite possibly saving himself from the dead lights. The next morning, Lily, Teddy and Phil meet at the secret spot again, and when Teddy tells them about the lampshade, Phil finally believes, citing he's known Teddy since first grade and knows when he's lying, and this is definitely not a lie. But okay, so now what? They can't tell anyone, or they'll get sent to the loony bin in Juniper Hill, the same one that Henry Bowers eventually ends up in. So that means they'll need evidence, and the best place to start is hitting up the library to find out everything they can about the town of Derry. They are joined by Phil's 6-year-old sister Susie, who's quite the little talker. Using a periodical machine, for those who don't know and born after the internet came out, it's a machine where they keep old copies of newspapers so you can cycle through them by date and look up old news stories. They wind it back to the day Matty disappeared and find out there was another person, a last witness who had seen Matty at the movies before they went missing, Ronnie. The kids track her down, but when they ask her about it, she tells them to fuck off. Long story short, the police try to pin it on her father because he's black. Oh dear. But when a frustrated Phil blurts out, "What are we supposed to do now? Go hunting for singing kids in the sewers?" it makes Ronnie freeze in place and stare at them with wide eyes in terror. She doesn't know if it's Matty's voice she's heard, but she's heard many voices coming out of different drains. And they were all singing the same song, "You Got Trouble," a song from the musical The Music Man. Later that night, while trying to get to sleep, Major Hanlon is attacked by 2 guys wearing gas masks and full body suits. They ask him to reveal the specs of the B-52 and threaten to kill him. But the Major holds his ground, and just then he's joined by his co-pilot Paulie, who comes in swinging, and the intruders then back off and flee. Now this show jumps around a lot, just so you know. So again, we now go back to the kids. We meet up with the kids who are now breaking into the theatre to watch The Music Man and find out what kind of hidden message these voices might be trying to give them. While waiting for Ronnie to get the projector running, the other kids air out their feelings about how they wish they would have done things differently. Maybe Matty would have tried to run away. The film suddenly flickers on, and it's the song "You Got Trouble," and the film plays out. Matty is suddenly in the film. He's standing in the crowd and sees them through the screen as well. He starts walking towards it, even calls out their names. The kids are confused but yell for him to escape. Matty then gets angry and tells them it's all their fault. Because they lied, because they weren't there. He bows his head and then raises it again, and it's all demented like a Disney cartoon with a huge smile and puffy cheeks. He then lifts up a bundle and throws it at the screen, and that monster baby flies out of the screen and attacks the kids. Lily is frozen in terror, and the baby lunges and grabs Teddy and flies him up to the ceiling, ripping his head off. He then grabs Phil and starts tearing him apart. Susie crawls under the benches towards Lily, and the baby thing spots them and bites through her arm. Oh shit, that is chaos. Ronnie runs down from the project room with a hammer in hand and finds Lily pulling her to her feet. It unfortunately looks like Susie has been killed. The two girls book it out of the theatre, locking the doors behind them. Cut to black. And that wraps it up. Holy shit, I didn't think we'd get a massacre in episode 1. It started off a bit cheesy and the character moments did feel a bit generic at first, but once it got into the last third of the episode, it felt like it switched into turbo mode and just hammered us with what we came to see: sweet bloody carnage. Now the question is, can the show keep this memento, or is it gonna fall into the same trap as many modern day series do? A bunch of filler, then a big cliffhanger ending. I don't need constant gore or whatever, but I do expect that in the quieter episode we get some good lore and some good character development, not just a bunch of exposition of things we've just seen. That being said, we're going to hold off ranking the show until it wraps up, so I'll just say strong start and definitely curious of where it's going to go from here on out. I want to thank you all for checking out the video. What did you think of the episode? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed our content, make sure to give us a like, share and subscribe to the channel, and smash that bell icon to stay up to date with all our latest releases. If you're on mobile, hit that hype button and just swipe right on the comments to get that. We greatly appreciate it. I've been your host Sarah, and thank you for being here with me today. Have the most beautiful day and take care. Goodbye. Thank you.